They called him the Golden Boy, and he earned it. A left hook that shattered dreams. A style so sharp it carried him to 11 world titles in 6 weight divisions. From the Olympics to the biggest stages in boxing, Oscar de la Hoya didn't just fight, he commanded the spotlight. And when the gloves came off, the empire continued. From luxury mansions to high-end cars and a business legacy that turned him from superstar to mogul. So, before we dive into the brilliance, the battles, and the billion-dollar impact of Oscar de la Hoya, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because this wasn't just boxing, this was the golden era. Born on February 4th, 1973, in East Los Angeles, a young boy entered the world carrying the weight of 2 nations on his shoulders. He wasn't born into privilege, but into a family where boxing was more than a sport. It was a legacy. His grandfather fought in smoky amateur halls of the 1940s, his father in the rough professional rings of the 60s. In East LA, Oscar wasn't just another kid with gloves. He was the son chosen to carry the dream further. From the cracked sidewalks of his neighborhood to the global stage, he would rise to embody a nickname the world would never forget, the Golden Boy. What followed was nothing short of cinematic. An Olympic gold medal before his 20th birthday, fulfilling the promise he made to his dying mother. Victories over legends, nights when the entire boxing world stopped to watch him shine. At his peak, he wasn't just a champion, he was the face of boxing. The crossover star who filled arenas, headlined blockbuster fights, and brought in over $700 million in pay-per-view revenue, long before Mayweather and Pacquiao rewrote the record books. But his story was never just about punches thrown or belts collected. He became an empire builder, founding Golden Boy Promotions, guiding the careers of future icons like Canelo Alvarez, and amassing a fortune that today stands at an estimated $200 million. He was one of the first fighters to prove that a boxer could be more than a warrior in the ring. He could be a mogul. Still, behind the bright lights and golden image, there's a deeper story. A tale of pressure, triumph, heartbreak, and reinvention. So how did a boy from East Los Angeles rise to become one of the richest, most celebrated, and most controversial figures in the history of boxing? That journey begins here. At just 15 years old, Oscar de la Hoya was already making noise. He won the National Junior Olympics 119-pound title, displaying speed and power that belied his age. By the time his amateur career began to take shape, Oscar was unstoppable. 234 wins, 163 by knockout, a resume so impressive it already read like a legend in the making. Barcelona, 1992, the Summer Olympics. The weight of a mother's dream pressed against every punch. In the first round, Oscar upset Cuba's Julio Gonzalez. In the final, he faced Marco Rudolph, the only man who had ever beaten him. This was more than a fight, it was destiny. Oscar fought with fire, determination, and heartbreak stitched into every jab. When his hand was raised and the gold medal hung around his neck, America embraced him as its new hero. Newspapers plastered his smile across their front pages. To the world, Oscar de la Hoya was a promise fulfilled. But to him, it was only the beginning. On November 23rd, 1992, he stepped into the professional ranks. His debut lasted less than 2 minutes. Lamar Williams never stood a chance. A knockout in the very first round announced that the Golden Boy was here, and he was here to stay. By his 12th fight, he was already a world champion. At just 20 years old, he dismantled Jimmy Bredal to claim the WBO junior lightweight title. One by one, the names fell: Giorgio Campanella, Jorge Paez, Rafael Ruelas. Each victory wasn't just another notch on his belt. It was a statement. Oscar de la Hoya wasn't just climbing divisions, he was conquering them. And then came Julio Cesar Chavez. He was a Mexican icon. With youth, speed, and precision on his side, he tore into the veteran, opening cuts so deep the fight had to be stopped in the 4th round. At just 23 years old, he had beaten the legend. Mexico might not have forgiven him immediately, but the boxing world had no choice. The Golden Boy was now the king. He defended his crown against Miguel Ángel Gonzalez, then stepped up again, this time to face Pernell Whitaker. Whitaker was the defensive genius, the puzzle no one could solve. For 12 grueling rounds, Whitaker slipped and countered, frustrating Oscar. But where skill met will, de la Hoya found a way. His aggression, his clean power punches swayed the judges, and when the final bell rang, his hand was raised once more. The Golden Boy was now the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. The victories kept coming. Each fight, another chapter in the making of a superstar. But with the spotlight came controversy. His rematch with Chavez in 1998 cemented his dominance, but it was the Trinidad fight in 1999 that would haunt him. Oscar outboxed Trinidad for most of the fight, using his jab and movement to build a clear lead. But in the final rounds, believing he was ahead, Oscar coasted. Too cautious, too careful. When the scorecards were read, the unthinkable happened. Trinidad was declared the winner. To this day, fans argue about that decision. To Oscar, it was a bitter reminder that in boxing, perception can matter more than performance. He bounced back, knocking out Daryl Coley, then reclaiming titles. But every great story has rivals, and for Oscar, one name burned bright: Shane Mosley. Their first clash in 2000 was razor close, but the decision went Mosley's way. A rematch years later ended in even more controversy, with Mosley again given the nod, despite De La Hoya outlanding him by over 100 punches. Years later, when Mosley admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs during that fight, the sting of injustice cut even deeper. Still, Oscar kept chasing history. He moved up in weight, defeating Javier Castillo to claim yet another title, his 5th division. Then, in 2002, came the grudge match with Fernando Vargas. Billed as bad blood, it was more than a fight. It was war. 4-6 rounds, the battle raged evenly, but in the 7th, Oscar seized control. A vicious left hook in the 11th dropped Vargas, and moments later, the referee waved it off. Oscar's arm rose, and with it, perhaps the sweetest victory of his career. By 2004, De La Hoya had become the first fighter in history to win world titles in 6 different weight divisions. But his climb brought him face-to-face with Bernard Hopkins. Hopkins, the middleweight king, was too big, too powerful. In the 9th round, a single left hook to the liver crumbled Oscar to the canvas. It was the first knockout loss of his career. Yet, even in defeat, he made over $30 million, proving that the Golden Boy was still the sport's biggest draw. The years that followed brought new challenges, both in the ring and beyond. He stopped Ricardo Mayorga in 2006, then faced the man who would eventually surpass him as boxing's biggest star. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Their 2007 clash was a cultural event, shattering pay-per-view records. Oscar pressed forward, throwing over 100 more punches, but Mayweather's precision and timing earned him a split decision. The torch had been passed, even if he wasn't ready to admit it. His final chapter came in 2008 against a man smaller in size, but larger in momentum, Manny Pacquiao. Oscar entered the ring that night a favorite, but it quickly became clear time had caught up. Pacquiao's speed and ferocity overwhelmed him. After 8 brutal rounds, Oscar's corner stopped the fight. He sat on a stool, beaten not just by Pacquiao, but by the years. "You're right," he admitted to Freddie Roach. "I don't have it anymore." In April 2009, he announced his retirement. His record: 39 wins, 6 losses, 30 knockouts. But numbers only tell part of the story. Yet even in retirement, a question remained. Would he stay away from the ring forever? Or was the fire inside him too strong to silence? Outside the ring, Oscar de la Hoya's battles were no less dramatic than the wars he fought under the bright lights. For a man called the Golden Boy, life beyond boxing was anything but golden. In the late 90s, he seemed untouchable, rising higher than ever with fame, fortune, and a glamorous relationship with actress and Miss USA 1995, Shauna Moakler. They were engaged, and by 1999, they had welcomed a daughter together. From the outside, it looked like the fairy tale of a champion. But behind the closed doors of his personal life, tension brewed. That tension exploded in 2000 when Moakler, watching the Latin Grammy Awards from home, saw De La Hoya arrive with another woman. Within months, a $62.5 million palimony suit followed, filled with accusations of alcohol abuse and broken trust. The case settled quietly, but the scars on his reputation and his family remained. Soon after, in 2001, he tried again to build stability, marrying Puerto Rican singer Millie Carrecher. Together they had 3 children, but even that marriage, once seen as his anchor, unraveled by 2016. Other relationships left him with more children and more fragments of a life that never seemed as steady as his footwork inside the ropes. Yet he wasn't defined only by heartbreak. And today, Oscar de la Hoya finds himself in yet another chapter. Since 2021, he has been in a relationship with Holly Sonders, a former sports broadcaster and fitness model. The two have made no secret of their romance, appearing together at red carpet events and on social media in a mix of glamorous and candid moments. At one point, he even floated the idea of running for president of the United States. a move as surprising as it was ambitious. And so the question lingers. When the cheers faded, was De La Hoya chasing glory or searching for the kind of peace the spotlight could never deliver? His life carries the same mix of spectacle and precision that once defined his every fight. Step through the gates of his Vegas estate, and you're not just entering a home. You're walking into a palace built for a man who lived as boxing's golden boy. Nearly 9,000 square feet of glass and steel overlook the Strip, with an infinity pool that melts into the horizon. A trophy room that doubles as a shrine to his career, complete with a miniature boxing ring, and even a hidden arcade where past glory collides with present indulgence. Every corner whispers wealth, but also a hunger for legacy. It's not just a house. It's a monument to a man who refused to stop shining when the lights dimmed in the arena. The garage tells another story. Parked under dimmed lights and polished like jewelry are machines built for speed and power. A Lamborghini Aventador SVJ that roars like thunder, a Ferrari SF90 Stradale once gifted to his partner Holly Sonders, and a Huracan that seems restless even at a standstill. Next to them, a custom GMC Sierra pays tribute to his Olympic gold, as if to remind him where the journey began. Each car isn't just transportation. It's a symbol, a snapshot of chapters in his life, a moving museum of success. But luxury doesn't end on land. De La Hoya has been spotted on yachts slicing through turquoise waters and boarding private jets with the same ease he once stepped through the ropes. Even his wrists tell stories. A Hublot Big Bang Unico here, a Rolex Daytona there, timepieces that don't just keep time, but measure legacy. This is the life of Oscar De La Hoya away from the ring. An empire of mansions, machines, and moments of indulgence. What happens when the golden boy of boxing steps outside the ring? For Oscar De La Hoya, the answer was never just one thing. It was music, fashion, business, even politics. He wasn't content with being a champion of fists. He wanted to be a champion of culture. At the height of his fame, he appeared on video game covers, turned heads in the music industry with a Grammy-nominated Latin pop album, and even launched his own clothing line. He became a face not just for boxing, but for entertainment itself. His ambition didn't stop there. De La Hoya built Golden Boy Enterprises into a powerhouse, investing in real estate, acquiring boxing magazines like The Ring, and even purchasing a stake in the Houston Dynamo Soccer Club. He became a promoter, a businessman, a philanthropist, and even a children's book author. For a moment, it seemed like he had unlocked the secret of life after boxing, creating an empire as impressive as his legacy in the ring. But behind the glossy covers and bronze statues lay darker truths. Allegations, lawsuits, and scandals began to swirl. Accusations of sexual misconduct, a cross-dressing controversy that he first denied and later admitted, and a battle with substance abuse that nearly consumed him. Cocaine, alcohol, and poor judgment stained the once perfect image of the Golden Boy. By his own admission, he had flaws he could no longer hide, checking into rehab multiple times, trying to fight a different kind of opponent, himself. De La Hoya's life became a paradox, public triumphs colliding with private chaos. One day, he was donating millions to schools. The next, he was battling accusations or headlines about addiction. And yet, despite it all, he never disappeared. He remained in the spotlight, sometimes bruised, sometimes resilient, but always present. Which raises the question, how does a man once worshipped as boxing's golden child reconcile the weight of his demons with the brilliance of his achievements? And more importantly, does the fight outside the ring ever truly end? Before you go, don't miss out on exclusive perks. Click the link in the description to become a channel member and enjoy awesome benefits, like suggesting future video topics, getting early access to new content 48 hours before anyone else, and much more. Your support means the world and helps us keep bringing you the stories you love. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more amazing content. And while you're here, why not check out our deep dive into Nassim Amid's video? Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.